I received a call that there was a fire in my parents' building. When we got here, there was fire trucks everywhere.
Dozens of people are looking for temporary accommodation forced from their homes after a weekend fire destroyed the upper floor of this Windsor apartment. Plus, health officials are sounding the alarm as cases of COVID-19 rise in Windsor, Essex. It's where the cases originate that has them concerned. What a weekend. Winds still blowing across Windsor and Essex County today. 7 degrees outside right now, and we're about to ride a bit of a heat wave. Colette Kennedy has all the details in her forecast tonight. I'm Chris Hensing. Thanks for joining us. As many as 100 people are out of their homes tonight after a huge fire ripped through an apartment building on Little River Road. Everyone made it out alive, but now they face an uncertain future, told that it could be a long time before they can return home. Jacob Barker spoke with some of them today.
Right now we're just at a loss and we're not sure where to go, and we keep calling for direction and we've had no answers.
Terry Ethier's elderly parents live in the building and got out early in the fire. On the day of the fire, she and her fiancé brought her parents somewhere warm and were told they could go to the WFCU Center where the city was set up to help. There they met with social services.
As for information, they couldn't really help us due to our circumstances with my parents being disabled and where to place them. There wasn't really any options. They did tell us to get in contact with CCAC. Unfortunately, CCAC is after the fact, after we find a place for them.
2 days later, a place for them to stay is still uncertain.
We've called anyone and everyone who will listen, and so far we've had nothing, no answers, just kind of the runaround.
The couple did not have insurance. They have managed to find a place for them to stay for this evening, but they need an arrangement that works.
She's disabled with MS in a wheelchair, so she ultimately needs all the things that allow her to be able to enter a bathroom, use the facilities in the bathroom,
and even
shower,
maneuver
even around. Currently, she can't even move forward or back. She's boxed in a corner.
The couple will be out of their home for a while. Windsor Fire today gave times for people to be able to return to their apartments and gather and salvage the things that they need. But the fire marshal's office is warning people that it will be a long-term displacement.
One section of roof is destroyed. Other aspects of the roof have also been impacted by the fire, so they'll have to be replaced. The electrical is off, hydro's completely shut off because the lines have been compromised in the building. Where there's no fire damage, the water has gone down to the second and main floors, causing water damage.
And Jacob Barker joins us now live from the scene. What kind of help is available for these families?
Yeah, well, Chris, from what we can gather right now, they're on their own. I did reach out to the city today that said every household that they spoke with had somewhere to stay or somewhere to go to, and that we should be asking questions of the property management company here. We did reach out to them as well today as well. It's a company called Global Management who said they're declining to make any comment at this point. One tenant also told me that she had received aid from the Red Cross, but nobody else she had spoken to had. So I called the Red Cross as well, who said that they would have to have a request from either the city or the property management company to step in here, and they have had no such request. Chris?
Thanks for this, Jacob. The CBC's Jacob Barker live tonight. The Windsor Essex Health Unit says that we're at a turning point. 22 new cases of COVID-19 announced today. The medical officer of health again asking the public to act now before it's too late. Stacey Janzer following today's new details. Stacey, what more can be done to prevent a higher spike of cases?
Well, Chris, the health unit says it's keeping up with best practices, things that we've been told to do for months. Wear a mask, wash your hands, stay 2 meters apart, only go out for essential trips. It said this situation can turn into something which can become unmanageable by everyone, which would end up causing closures in the community. The cases today were acquired in many different ways. Of the 22 cases, 4 are in healthcare workers, 3 in residents in long-term care homes and retirement homes, 3 more from close contacts of a confirmed case, and 3 acquired from within the community. 9 are being investigated.
All those indicators are a stark reminder that how delicate all of this balance is. Last time when we reported, I think close to 16, 17 cases last week or the week before, the good thing or the bad thing, which we can, however we want to see it, is a lot of them were close contacts of a confirmed case. They were all, most of them were part of a single household. So that way it was contained. When we are reporting 22 today with all these diverse places, it scares me. It gives me the indication that we are lagging in what we are doing, and we have to act now.
And this weekend, there were 17 new cases. The Catholic Board has dismissed 16 students from Christ the King Elementary School because of a high-risk exposure. Roseland Public School had a positive case over the weekend, and those in close contact were notified.
Stacey, on that morning briefing today, Dr. Ahmed said himself that this message to the public might be repetitive, even boring, but important.
Yes, I spoke with an epidemiologist from Western University and I asked him if the message was getting confusing for people. Since many of us are back to work, some in large numbers, yet we're told to have little contact with those outside the household. He says it can be difficult for people to understand the nuances and that it's normal human behavior to make assumptions about what is safe and what isn't safe for each of us. But he says we still need to understand nothing's changed on the virus front. It's still there and people need to understand the risk involved in their actions.
And what kind of action can the health unit take to get that message to the right people?
Well, Friday, the health unit started using that color-coded system on the local pandemic status, something a local marketing firm thinks could be helpful, but they say there are some things that need to be addressed to make it successful.
If we can create the fact that knowing can create hope, knowing and the information and education can create hope that there is a part of this that we can take hold of and affect change for. And even if it's just being aware and protecting myself from it, then that's a really big thing. We are one of the most richest multicultural district and region there is, which is so beautiful, but it also complicates communications. So we have to just be aware that we have to simplify the message, we have to get it out there, pictures, color, things that are really, really clear.
And this firm worked on the Stay Cool Windsor campaign with the health unit. As an example of what Douglas was talking about, the colors here represent the heat warnings and info for people to understand what to do with each one. Easy to understand for anyone. Douglas says the next step is getting this message out, targeting each group in a way that they'll understand it. So online information may work for computer savvy people. Seniors may need a different approach. And she says repeat the message until it's ingrained. Chris.
Thanks for Stacey. The CBC's Stacey Janzer live tonight. Many major hospitals in this province are full or even over capacity, not because of COVID-19 patients. It's raised fears of a return to the kind of hallway healthcare that Ontario saw before the pandemic. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has the story.
As an overnight dusting of snow gives southern Ontario an early taste of winter, hospitals in the province are seeing patient volumes they don't usually get until December. Means there's not a lot of wiggle room if the number of patients with COVID-19 starts to spike.
The real fear here is that we see those numbers really get sky high and start to overwhelm hospitals through the fall and winter.
It is now time for oral questions.
The Ford government is promising an extra 2,200 beds for hospitals over the coming months.
Right now they are close to 100% capacity because they're dealing with COVID-19 cases, but they're also trying to catch up on the backlogs of surgeries and procedures that we had to postpone during the first wave. We don't want to have that happen again.
Figures obtained by CBC News show some hospitals exceeding 100% capacity. Among them, Ottawa Civic, starting construction on a temporary additional unit. Around the province, high occupancy rates and the demands of the pandemic mean many nurses are being asked to work extra shifts.
And I gotta tell you, they're weary, they're tired. How long can they continue to work at this pace and deliver the care that they need to?
St. Michael's Hospital in downtown Toronto has averaged 95% of its capacity since the 1st of September.
Our staff are stretched. They're working hard to accommodate our recovery efforts and meet the demand of those coming to us for care. It does take its toll over time and people are tired.
Despite all this, the Ford government is considering loosening restrictions on COVID-19 hotspots at the end of the week.
We have to create a happy balance. If you go one way, it's not too good. If you go the other, it's not good. So we're doing pretty good as a province. That's what I can tell you compared to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. So we must be doing something right.
Although the number of COVID-19 patients has risen steadily since mid-September, right now they take up fewer than 330 beds in Ontario's hospitals. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's take a look at the numbers here locally in the city. Windsor Regional Hospital's Met Campus at 89% capacity. The Olek campus at 93%. The VP of Critical Care says that's higher than they would like it to be. They've got one COVID patient in an ICU bed, and she says that they can open up extra beds if needed.
So we have surge beds available at both of our acute care sites, and most importantly, our field hospital at the St. Clair Sportsplex. So as recently as Friday, we shut down our assessment center. We have our facilities departments in there today and tomorrow getting it ready. We're going to do our final walkthrough, and then that'll be an additional 100-bed capacity that we can have available if needed.
Quebec has announced $100 million in provincial funding for mental health services. The funding was originally set to be unveiled next week as part of the government's broader pandemic plan, but Premier François Legault says the investment announcement was moved ahead after the Saturday night attack in Quebec City.
We've increased the number of people working for helping people with mental health problems, but we'll need to do more.
2 people were killed, 5 others wounded in the Halloween night attack. Witnesses said someone dressed in a medieval outfit randomly attacked people with a sword. A 24-year-old man from the Montreal area has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 5 of attempted murder. In the House of Commons today, MPs paid tribute to the Quebec City victims by holding a moment of silence. This is the final day of campaigning in the U.S. presidential election. Both candidates are holding multiple rallies in key states as they try to win over any remaining undecided voters.
We win Pennsylvania, and we're going to win the whole thing. We're going to win the whole thing. And we'll send them a signal like they've never seen before.
It's time for Donald Trump to pack his bags and go home. We're done. We're done with the chaos. We're done with the tweets, the anger, the hate, the failure, the irresponsibility.
More than 95 million Americans have already cast their ballots, an early voting record. Most polls show Joe Biden in the lead nationally, but it will all come down to what happens in individual swing states like Pennsylvania, the one place both candidates visited today.
I understand this is a president who wants full credit for the economy he inherited and gets zero blame for the pandemic he ignored, but the job doesn't work that way.
Former President Barack Obama at a rally on Belle Isle in Detroit over the weekend. Joe Biden and the Democrats hoping to flip Michigan back to the blue column. Donald Trump carried the state by about 11,000 votes in 2016. The outcome there could well decide who takes the Oval Office in January. So what are leaders in government and business watching this election on this side of the border? I spoke with Sandra Pupatella about this morning. Now, on the government side, she's the former provincial minister of economic development, trade, and employment. Right now, she sits on the board of an international parts supplier, a role she's had for the length of U.S. President Donald Trump's first term. And she believes Joe Biden will be elected, but we start with her thoughts on what the re-election of Trump will mean for businesses in Windsor, Essex.
The business community will see some stability where tax policy is concerned. And for us, unfortunately, I think that means a tougher time for Canada to draw investment into Canada. We've watched at a very high level, no hold barred going after companies to make investments back in America or move investment back into America. And that's been at our peril. I think that's going to continue. Now, we need to remember that if Joe Biden wins as a Democrat, Democrats have not been great pro-traders. So I'm not sure how much the policy will change, but the behavior will change. So it'll be a much more subtle, gentlemanly diplomacy back to another era that I think we are better suited for, frankly. I've watched our political leaders really dumbfounded. How do you respond to what the American leader has said publicly about our country, about our prime minister? I think half the time we're left with our mouth gaped open. What are you supposed to say? You want to be polite, but I mean, come on. So if Biden wins, I think we'll go back to a really good working relationship instead of, always thinking we're walking on eggshells. And that's got to be good for Canada.
One of the interesting things that a lot of experts are looking at here is that transition period, if it exists for Biden, if he were to win, is still something that could be an unstable moment for the United States. What advice would you give to politicians, to people who have business ties with with that government during that transition period, where there might be a period where we're not really sure what's going to happen next?
Well, I think it's going to be a bit of a continuation of putting it in neutral for a while. And frankly, the pandemic has done that for us. We're sort of, for all of the businesses that have been considered essential, they've been ongoing anyway. And they're finding a way, because of a pandemic, to manage. That will continue. And depending on the outcome, that pandemic will last longer. So we're going to have to get used to this. One thing I always think about is I was in Mexico visiting a plant, a company that I'm on the board. And that evening, when we all got together to have a bite to eat, the last debate was on between Trump and Hillary Clinton. And I had to get the restaurant to actually change the channel so that we would all be subjected to this debate, because I couldn't miss it. And I was astonished that with half the board being American, they were wildly in support of this guy. They wanted Trump to win. They couldn't stand Clinton. It was really, and there I was, like the lone voice, thinking, oh, you can't do this, Anyway, let's fast forward several years later. The same individuals, their opinion has changed 180 degrees. And that's kind of where I get my moxie to say, I think Biden's going to win big, because if those staunch Republicans are actually changing their mind, and it took a long time for them to get there, there is hope. There's hope for humankind, that character actually matters in who you put in the largest office in the world.
Now, CBC is going to have special live programming for you on what could be a very long U.S. presidential election night or week. The National's Adrian Arsenault, Andrew Chang, and Ian Hannah-Mansing start at 8 p.m. anchoring our CBC News reporters who are on the ground in the states that matter. Now, that's going to be followed by a CBC News special after the vote at midnight. Doesn't stop there. At 3 in the morning, our CBC Morning Live team will be on air, and that's all going to be on CBC News Network. Snow was piling up in parts of southwestern Ontario yesterday in flakes across some of the bigger cities, but Windsor spared any accumulation. And you can throw those winter coats back in the closet, because it looks like we're about to ride a bit of a heat wave. Colette Kennedy with the forecast next. whale of a tale out of the Netherlands to show you here. This public transit rail car saved from a 10-meter drop after rolling past the end of the tracks. Slowed down by a statue, not just any statue. The name, Saved by a Whale's Tail. No passengers on board, no one was injured. And there are people now who are calling for the people who are around that area to keep the tram as a permanent addition to the whale sculpture. Joining us now for a live look at the weather is Colette Kennedy. I'm sure a bunch of stuff ended up where it wasn't supposed to be this weekend. Pretty windy out here.
Yeah, and that's crazy. That is wild that happened. Yes, incredible, right? The winds, the snow, a little bit. I mean, November giving us a little bit of everything, and wait till you see what else it's going to be bestowing upon us. I mean, this is going to be one of the. I know we have wild weather, but one of the wildest. Some of the extremes that we're seeing. So clear tonight and seasonal, but yes, we are keeping the winds. They'll be easing by tomorrow morning. Sunny and seasonal Tuesday. And then by midweek, just all bets are off. Forget about it, because never mind seasonal after that. You could throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, maybe you don't want to do that, but what I'm saying is just we are going to be talking about temperatures above seasonal, and I don't just mean for a day or two. We're going to be getting into a holding pattern. The upper air pattern is going to be such that basically the trough brought us some of the light snow and the flurries that we were seeing moving away. A ridge starts to build in, but that ridge that builds in is going to actually be settling in, and kind of what happens is when you get into one of these holding, or actually we call it a blocking pattern, often you end up in not necessarily the best part of the blocking pattern, like you could get stuck into the trough where the nastier weather is. I'm assuming that some folks are going to enjoy this finer weather that we'll be seeing, so I'm going to say that we're into the best part of this blocking pattern, and it's going to be settling in for about a week, where we're going to see these conditions where we have temperatures well above seasonal. I'm talking about a full week here. So these are your current readings. This is what we're looking at: 7 degrees for us in Windsor, 5 degrees for Chatham, Kent, and we are looking at what is out there. There's a little system. It's pretty small in terms of what impact it has, and it's off towards the east of us. The warm front passing through, the cold front's going to slip through from the north, so that's giving a little bit of light wet flurry activity off to the east, and the wind's even stronger towards the Niagara region, so a wind warning has just been issued there, where some of those winds will be exceeding 80 kilometers an hour tonight. But we're into the clearer sector here, so clear skies tonight, clear conditions tomorrow. So the temperatures in this part of the province will be into the double digits, whereas it'll be a struggle a little further east because of that cloud cover. So tonight we still have to contend with those westerly winds, still somewhat gusty. Temperatures though above freezing, so 3 degrees for the overnight lows. Let's add about 10 degrees, close to it. I think I'm putting 10 degrees there for tomorrow for our daytime highs, so taking us up to 13. Windsor, Leamington, almost there, Chatham, Kent, and a little bit cooler elsewhere. But this is what I want to get to and spend some time with, is that we look towards Wednesday. We jump up to about 18 degrees. Now, I'll just tell you, most of the records at this time of year are actually still into the low 20s, so not necessarily into record conditions. But as I look ahead, and I jumped ahead, wanting to see what our pattern is, I really see this going to about next Tuesday or so before I see things changing. So upper teens, likely we could be seeing even some 20s or low 20s. So we could get to record territory, just not the first few days of this event.
Well, you're going to build up, right? Got to build up some of that anticipation.
Sure, why not? I mean, this is going to be quite this is going to be quite the event.
No, something to enjoy. Thanks, Ms. Colette.
You're welcome.
Now, coming up, we have something else to take a look at, a special thing done once a year, a pumpkin parade. A final farewell in Kingsville. Jack-o'-lanterns with one last showing, an annual pumpkin parade. This was yesterday at Lakeside Park. People could come down and drop off their carved pumpkins, but also check out some of the craftsmanship that was on display.
Some of them are amazingly creative. Makes me wonder what I've done with the rest of my life because they're like awesome. One of my favorites is pumpkin pie. The pumpkin with a pie sign in it and a pie shell. But they're decorated, you know, some of them are amazingly decorated and others are carved so intricately. It's awesome to see all the pumpkins with all the little flickering tea lights in them. It's kind of magical.
This is our third year doing it, and it just gets bigger and better every year. It's a fun event, it's a free event, which is great for families, and it extends Halloween by one more day.
400 pumpkins dropped off in total. Not only is it good to watch, but it's good to eat too. The Gord Graveyard, a buffet for animals. They send it to farms so that local livestock can chow down. 6:29 p.m. That's it for CBC Windsor News. You can find more stories online, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Power and Politics is up next. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night.